Well, the Indiana Fever seem to be hitting their stride, and they are putting down the most points of anybody. They are the highest offense team in the league right now. They put down over 100 points for the fourth time in a row. They have done that 12 times this season, making it a record. And Caitlin Clark was in her bag. She put down 32 points, 4 rebounds, 7 assists. Actually, in her last 4 games, she is averaging
12 times. The Indiana Fever have dropped 100 points or more 12 times this season. That's not just a franchise record. That's a WNBA record. And 4 of those games happened in the last 4 games alone. We're watching something historic unfold in real time, and it's not just about Caitlin Clark anymore. This team has found an offensive rhythm that's making the rest of the league very, very nervous heading into the playoffs. But here's what makes this run even more remarkable. They just put up 104 points on the Seattle Storm, a defensive-minded team that nearly beat the Minnesota Lynx just days earlier. And they did it while losing their starting center 11 minutes into the game.
3 points a game, 8.8 assists per game, 4.3 three-pointers made, 2.5 stocks, and she is 56, 50, 95. Mind you, a 50, 40, 90 season is what everybody desires to attain, and in her last 4 games, she is well above that. She's not that for the season, but maybe she can get there, and if she does, this is MVP season loading. This is all WNBA season loading. This is hot.
Let's talk about what 565-095 actually means. For context, the gold standard in basketball is called the 504090 club. That means shooting 50% from the field, 40% from 3, and 90% from the free throw line over an entire season. Only 8 players in NBA history have ever achieved it. Larry Bird did it twice. Steve Nash did it 4 times. Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, Dirk Nowitzki, these are the names in that club. Caitlin Clark, over her last 4 games, is shooting 56% from the field, 50% from 3, and 95% from the line. She's averaging 30 points per game in that stretch with 8.8 assists. And she's doing it while getting absolutely mauled on every possession without the whistle she deserves.
Fades,
fires, and rolls it home.
One-legged floaters. She was hailing those Tom Brady QB1 passes cross-court.
And Timpson leaks out behind the defense for 2.
I mean, there were times where she was just playing with her food with those threes. Tonight, shooting 4 for 7. Overall, she went 9 for 14. She got to the line 10 times and sank all 10 of them. But I gotta give the rest of the Indiana Fever credit because they shot 26 free throws and missed 0. Count them, none of them.
Watch that sequence again. Stutter step spin fade. One-legged floater. Cross-court dime for an easy 2. This isn't one-dimensional scoring anymore. Early in the season, defenses could game plan for her, force her right, make her finish at the rim, live with the deep threes. That doesn't work anymore. Against Seattle, she went 9 for 14 from the field, 4 of 7 from 3. But here's the stat that matters most, 10 for 10 from the free throw line. The entire Indiana Fever team shot 26 free throws and missed 0, not 1. When you're hitting that efficiently from the stripe, you become unguardable in crunch time because defenders can't touch you. And speaking of defenders, Jewell Loyd was on her all night. 4 fouls, sat the entire third quarter, and still Caitlin dropped 32. That's not a matchup problem. That's an unsolvable problem.
By the way, let's talk about the Indiana Fever giving up these large leads. I mean, they gave up a 20-point lead to the Seattle Storm. It was within a bucket. The Seattle Storm fought tooth and nail for that. And of course, in my live, us Indy fans are like, no, this isn't happening. And I kind of knew it wouldn't happen because the Indiana Fever, you know, that was their MO in the beginning of the season, but they don't give up those leads anymore. I will say that, again, this is the Seattle Storm, but the Seattle Storm give almost every team, including the Lynx, a run for their money, almost recently beating the nearly undefeatable Lynx. So they're so close. They just need, the Seattle Storm, that is, they do just need a little bit of that maturity, a little bit of that vet mentality to actually.
Here's what people miss when they talk about the Fever giving up leads. Yes, they were up 20 points. Yes, Seattle cut it to 2. But this isn't the same team that collapsed in June and July. That version of the Fever would have panicked, started rushing shots, turned the ball over 5 times in 3 minutes. This team just kept running their offense. The Seattle Storm are not some lottery team. They took the Lynx, the best team in the league, to the wire just days before this game. They've got Nneka Ogwumika, Jewell Loyd, Skylar Diggins-Smith. That's 3 All-Stars and a former MVP. The fact that Indiana let them back in the game and then calmly closed it out, That's growth. That's playoff-level composure. And let's give Nneka Ogwumika her flowers here. 33 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, 0 turnovers. She was absolutely cooking. She hit 6 threes, she was the best player on the floor for Seattle, and it still wasn't enough because Indiana has multiple weapons now.
She was very, very quiet in the beginning of the game, wasn't showing up, wasn't really hitting much. And then I mentioned this in my live, I'm like, do not count Kelsey Mitchell out. Like when Caitlin is not in, AB is not in, she gets a fire lit under her butt and she just heats up. And in this game, she pulled off some magic. And this right here, nobody goes ISO in the league like Kelsey Mitchell. This was just tough.
A dazzling dynamic dance from Kelsey Mitchell.
Kelsey Mitchell doesn't get nearly enough credit for what she's doing this season. She's in the middle of the third longest streak of 20-plus point games in WNBA history. Think about that. Not third this season. Third ever. She's chasing Cynthia Cooper and Diana Taurasi in the record books. Against Seattle, she was invisible for a half. 2 points at halftime. Couldn't buy a bucket. And then she just flipped a switch in the third quarter and finished with 28 points on 9 for 18 shooting. 4 of 7 from deep. That's the mark of an elite scorer. The ability to stay ready even when the ball's not finding you early. Here's what makes this duo so dangerous. When Caitlin's hot, defenses collapse on her and Kelsey gets clean looks. When Kelsey's hot, they can't help off her, and Caitlin gets driving lanes. And when they're both hot, good luck. You're giving up 100 plus, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Indiana Fever, totally dominant on the boards. AB went out, and then the board crashing stopped a lot. I will say Mo Billings did a pretty decent job tonight, coming away with 14 points in 29 minutes and 11 boards, 11 rebounds and assists, and a block. But I gotta say, there was a block that Flau'jae Johnson did on Mo Billings that was just so tough. And I gotta say, Mikayla Timpson is looking pretty nice around the glass. Now, she did only have 4 rebounds tonight. I think it should have been a little bit more. She was in for 28 minutes. She also had 4 points.
Now let's address the elephant in the room. Aaliyah Boston went down hard in the first quarter. 11 minutes played, 11 points scored, and then she's grabbing her knee on the floor in visible pain. The entire building went silent. Fever fans watching at home had flashbacks to every devastating injury we've seen this decade. But here's the good news. She walked off under her own power. She sat on the bench the rest of the game, smiling and engaged with her teammates. No ice wrap on the knee, which is a very good sign. The team hasn't released an official update yet, but all indications point to this being a bad fall, not a structural injury. She's listed as day-to-day for the Portland game on Friday. What this does expose, though, is Indiana's lack of depth at the 5. Damiris Dantas is out. When AB went down, they had to go small with Temi Fagbenla and Nalissa Smith splitting center minutes. Smith had 14 points and 11 rebounds in 29 minutes, which is solid production, but she's not a true rim protector. Seattle got to the paint at will in the second half.
Right after the game, she is a reporter for Seattle, but sat in with the Stephanie White and the Fever in the post game and wanted to ask about the anti-trans rally. And here's what happened.
Coach, there was a rally before the game, an anti-trans rally before the game, inspired by Sophie Cunningham. As a member of the LGBTQ plus community, how did you receive her comments and the way it ignited the right wing and anti-trans supporters? And for the players, have you had conversations in the locker room about it?
I'll jump in on that. We do have an organizational statement I'll read. So neither our organization nor Sophie had any knowledge of this demonstration and no contact with its organizers. Our only goal as a team, whether at home or away, is to win basketball games and make Fever fans for life, and we're united on that mission. Do we have any more basketball questions?
And now we need to talk about what happened before the game, because this is where sports and politics collide, whether we like it or not. There was a demonstration outside Climate Pledge Arena before tip-off. Multiple outlets reported it as an anti-trans rally, but when you actually look at what happened, it was about a dozen people holding signs supporting Sophie Cunningham's comments about biological males in women's sports. Sophie Cunningham, for those who don't know, posted on social media a few weeks ago that she opposes transgender athletes competing in women's sports. It went viral, it divided the fan base, and now some fans are showing up to games to voice their support for her position. Roberta Rodriguez, a Seattle-based reporter, asked Stephanie White about it in the post-game press conference. White was clearly prepared for the question. She read a prepared statement from the organization. Neither our organization nor Sophie had any knowledge of this demonstration and no contact with its organizers. Our goal as a team, whether at home or away, is to win basketball games and make Fever fans proud. That is our only mission." Then she immediately asked if there were any more basketball questions. That's how you handle a loaded question in a press conference. Acknowledge it exists, state your position clearly, and move on. No elaboration, no follow-ups. Just back to hoops.
The word on the street is that the WNBA will not rescind the technical foul assessed to Caitlin Clark during last Wednesday's win over the Connecticut Sun, a league source confirmed to IndyStar. That leaves the Indiana Fever guard with 7 technical fouls on the season, 1 away from an automatic 1-game suspension. And what a soft technical foul that was. But, you know, I guess hey, listen, nothing came out of her mouth tonight. And she was getting hacked a bit by Flaugier. Again, love Flaugier. She was just really, really, really on Caitlin, defending her like a gnat. And again, like I said, Lexi's defense, being a gnat last season, suffered. She was getting called for a lot of fouls in the beginning of the season. And it just so happens that, Flaugier was definitely fouling her a lot. She did end up getting 4 personal fouls, but she definitely fouled her more than she got called. Overall, good night for the Fever. They do seem to be hitting their stride. I have been waiting for post All-Star break Indiana to show up. That was what just blew all of our minds in 2024. And, I think everyone's kind of clicking. Sophie had mentioned it. She mentioned that this Indiana Fever team, she knows they can do it. They hadn't been clicking. She said she started feeling that, the rhythm started happening for the team. So we might see good things. Now, I will also caveat this by saying this has been the easiest part of the season for the Indiana Fever. It only gets harder from here. I mean, aside from playing the Portland Fire coming up next in a couple of days, they are going to be playing harder teams like the Lynx for the first time in the season. So we will see how that goes. I will be going live for the Lynx game. I don't think I'm going live for the Portland Fire game, but I do want to hear what you guys thought about the game. What do you think is going to happen against the Minnesota Lynx? I think the Indiana Fever have a little bit of a shot. But, at the same time, it is the Minnesota Lynx. Cheryl Reeve is the best coach in the WNBA. So, they're going to have their work cut out for them. And if you want to join me live, be there for each other in case whatever happens. Either, cheer in glee for the Indiana Fever, taking down the number 1 team, or commiserate. I will be there going live on August 2nd. But get down in the comments.
Here's the bigger picture that's getting lost in all the noise about demonstrations and social media controversies. The Indiana Fever are hitting their stride at the perfect time. They're 14-16 on the season with 8 games left. They're currently sitting in 7th place in the playoff race, just 1 game behind the Chicago Sky for 6th. And this is where the schedule gets real. They've got Portland on Friday. That's a must-win against a bottom feeder team. Then they face the Minnesota Lynx on August 2nd. That's their first meeting of the season, and it's going to tell us everything we need to know about whether this Fever team is actually ready for the playoffs or if they're just beating up on mediocre competition. The Lynx are 24-6. They're the best team in the league by a mile. Nafisa Collier is the MVP frontrunner. Cheryl Reeve is the best coach in WNBA history. They don't beat themselves. They don't give up 100 points. They execute at an elite level on both ends of the floor for 40 minutes. If Indiana can stay within single digits of Minnesota, that's a moral victory. If they actually win, that's a statement game that changes the entire playoff picture. Because here's what nobody's talking about. The Fever have the offensive firepower to beat anyone on a given night. Their ceiling is as high as any team in this league when Caitlin and Kelsey are both rolling. The question is the floor. Can they defend well enough to win when their shots aren't falling? Can they rebound against bigger, more physical teams? Can they execute in crunch time when the game slows down and every possession matters? We saw glimpses of it against Seattle. They gave up a 20-point lead but didn't panic. They made free throws down the stretch. They got stops when they needed them. That's playoff basketball. That's what it takes to win in August and September when the intensity ramps up and the margin for error disappears. Caitlin Clark is now 1 technical foul away from an automatic 1-game suspension. The league reviewed her 7th tech from the Connecticut Sun game last week and decided not to rescind it. That means she has to be perfect with her emotions for the rest of the regular season. 1 demonstrative gesture, 1 word to a ref, 1 moment of frustration, and she's sitting for a game. That's a tough spot to be in for a 22-year-old rookie who's getting hammered on every possession and not getting the calls. But it's also part of growing up in this league. You have to learn how to manage your emotions. You have to learn which battles are worth fighting with the officials and which ones you let go. Caitlin's been better about it lately. She didn't say a word to the refs tonight even when Jewel Lloyd was draped all over her. Lexi Hull continues to be a question mark for this team. She's making $750,000 this season, which is starter money in the WNBA, and she's giving you 0 points in 16 minutes against Seattle. 0 points, 3 rebounds, no assists. That's not acceptable production from someone getting starter minutes and starter money. The Fever need her to be a 3-and-D wing who can knock down open looks and guard multiple positions. Right now, she's not doing either consistently enough. The good news is, they've got depth now. Katie Lou Samuelson is healthy. Erica Wheeler is running the second unit effectively. Caitlin's playing 35 minutes a game and staying fresh because she's in elite condition. This team is deeper than people realize, and depth wins in the playoffs when rotations shrink and every possession matters. So where does this leave us heading into the final stretch? The Fever have 8 games to solidify their playoff position and build momentum. They're playing their best basketball of the season at exactly the right time. Caitlin Clark is in the MVP conversation whether people want to admit it or not. Kelsey Mitchell is playing at an all-WNBA level. And this offense is historically good when they're clicking. The defense is still a work in progress. The rebounding is inconsistent without AB healthy, and they haven't proven they can beat elite teams yet. But the pieces are there, the chemistry is there, and most importantly, the confidence is there. This isn't the same team that started 1-8 and looked completely lost on both ends of the floor. This is a team that believes they can score with anyone, close out tight games, and make a real run in the playoffs. And if Caitlin keeps playing at this level, 30 points, 9 assists, 5-6-5-0-9-5 shooting splits, they're going to be a nightmare matchup for whoever draws them in the first round. So here's my question for you. Is Caitlin Clark a legitimate MVP candidate, or is this just a hot streak that's going to cool off against better competition? Because if she maintains these numbers through the end of the season and leads the Fever to the playoffs, I don't see how you keep her out of the top 3 in voting. Drop your take in the comments, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you after the Lynx game on August 2nd. That's when we find out if this team is for real.